Hey everybody! I have some great stories for you today, so sit back, relax, and let's get into it. I'm pregnant with my second child, a girl due next month. When my older son was born, my husband and I got him a take-me-home outfit to leave the hospital in. Choosing it became a very special memory for us, and we decided we'd do the same with whatever future children we had. Last month, my father's girlfriend of 2 years, who I'll call Betty, presented me with a onesie for my daughter. She specifically said that she wanted me to use it as the take-me-home outfit. Betty had expressed the desire to buy that outfit 3 times since I'd announced my pregnancy. On all of those occasions, I explained that my husband and I wanted to pick it and buy it ourselves, and that choosing the first clothes our daughter would wear at home meant a lot to us both. When Betty gave me the onesie, she jokingly said she was saving us the effort. I sincerely thanked Betty, but told her my husband and I still wanted to pick the take-me-home outfit ourselves. I don't think she took it seriously, as her only reply was that we wouldn't find anything cuter. I'll be honest, I really don't like the outfit she bought, but even if I did, I wouldn't use it as the take-me-home. My husband and I were really looking forward to getting it ourselves, and even our son wanted to help us choose his sister's special clothes. A little under 2 weeks ago, we finally picked the outfit. It's a light yellow one that we fell in love with. My father and Betty came over for lunch on Saturday. Before they left, my son excitedly showed them the outfit. When Betty asked about the one she'd gifted me, I reminded her that we'd wanted to choose the baby's take-me-home ourselves. The onesie she got me will be kept with the rest of my daughter's clothes. She didn't say anything. My father called me the next day to tell me I'd made Betty very upset with my attitude. He said that she put a lot of care into the outfit she'd picked, and it was petty and inconsiderate of me to dismiss her generosity. Pretty much everyone that knows about this is on my side, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't have my doubts. I also recently found out the onesie Betty bought was very expensive, so maybe that's what's making me doubt myself. That said, I did express how much this meant to me and my husband, and I told her not to buy the outfit several times. Am I the jerk? Look, it's clear as day. You set a boundary, communicated it multiple times, and Betty chose to ignore it. It's not about the price tag or the cuteness of the outfit. It's about respecting your wishes as the parents. You were polite, you were clear, and yet Betty decided her desires trumped yours. That's not how it works. Your father calling you out for your attitude is frankly ridiculous. You're not being petty or inconsiderate. You're sticking to a meaningful tradition in your family. Betty's feelings might be hurt, but that's on her for not listening in the first place. You've done nothing wrong. Stick to your guns and dress your daughter in the outfit you chose. That's what matters. If you're enjoying this video, you should subscribe. I post real stories from real people every day. None of that AI garabga. Okay, we gotta move on to the next post. This is such a stupid post, and I'm still so embarrassed and flabbergasted that this even happened to begin with. For context, I, a 25-year-old female, live with roommates. All are female. We've all gotten close in the 2 years we've lived together, except for one roommate. We'll call her Emma, 23. It's not that I dislike Emma, but we've never meshed as well as my other roommates have. The other day, Emma called us all out to the living room where she was folding her laundry. She held up a pair of underwear and asked if it belonged to any of us, and I recognized them as mine, so I said yes. I apologized for the mix-up, and she immediately started yelling at me about how disgusting I am and how she wanted to light herself on fire after touching them. Since I live with all girls, this happens all the time, and none of us ever get weirded out by it. I can't even begin to count how many times someone's bras, socks, underwear, etc. have gotten mixed with my laundry by mistake. It's a bit embarrassing to admit, but I realised they were actually an old pair of period underwear that had, I cannot stress this enough, minor blood stains on them from years ago when I first got my period. Emma again decided to loudly announce how gross she thought I was and how I should be ashamed for not throwing them out, and tried to get my other roommates to look and join in on her outburst. Thankfully, I live with some awesome girls, so nobody even batted an eye despite me being absolutely horrified that someone I live with would do something like that. Everyone was quick to reassure me that it's no big deal and it happens to all of us. They tried to tell Emma to chill out, but she wasn't having it. She just went to her room and slammed the door. For the next week, Emma didn't speak to me. She would loudly talk to all of our other roommates with no problem, but the minute I tried speaking to her, she would just walk away. A couple of days ago, I was laying in bed and Emma was the only other person home. She knocked on my door, and when I opened it, she sheepishly asked me for a tampon, saying she woke up from a nap and bled through her shorts. How ironic! I laughed and told her no. I didn't have any left, and I knew our other roommates had some somewhere, so it's not like she had nothing. Yesterday she asked all of us if she could borrow a shirt because her clothes were in the washer. We all said no, and I even said I wouldn't want her to light herself on fire after touching any of my nasty stuff. She rolled her eyes and gave me a half-assed apology, and I told her I don't want her touching or borrowing my stuff if that's the way she acts about a natural bodily function that she also goes through. She called me childish and said she didn't see the big deal. Now there's this weird passive-aggressive vibe every time we're in the same room, and I'm wondering if I should just apologise or not. I talked to some friends and they said I've got nothing to apologise for, but I'm wondering if I overreacted. So, am I the jerk? To add, good Lord, since so many people are seemingly so fascinated by my so-called impossible pair of underwear that are over 10 years old, let me say this here, instead of saying the same thing 10 times over in the comments like I have been. My mum bought them for me when I was like 14, and they ended up being way too big for me, so I only wore them in times of desperation until recent years. Never thought I'd have to explain my underwear to hundreds of strangers on the internet, but there's a first time for everything, I suppose. Almost forgot. Okay, I just woke up and checked this for the first time in almost 9 hours. Y'all realise you sound creepy as frick when you zero in on my freaking underwear, right? This post was never meant to be about that. It's about my nasty roommate that shamed me for something I have no control over. The amount of comments I have received that have attempted to shame me for the exact same thing Emma did is repulsive. I'm glad it happened to me and not some other young girl who maybe just got her period and doesn't know a damn thing about it yet. Frick you. I'm not playing the victim, as some of you have suggested, for calling people out that are asking me to send them photos of the pair in question. If you're really bent out of shape over what a 25-year-old woman on the internet does with her belongings, you're weird. Sincerely, you sound like a freaking creep. Oh, honey. Let's get one thing straight. Living with roommates means dealing with the occasional awkwardness, including mixed-up laundry. Emma's reaction was over the top and, frankly, immature. Period stains? Welcome to being a woman, Emma. They happen, and they're nothing to be ashamed of. Your response to her request for a tampon? Understandable, given her previous outburst, but maybe not the high road. The shirt comment, a bit petty, but I get it, you were hurt. Emma owes you a real apology for her initial reaction, and for trying to shame you over something so natural. You? Maybe just a tiny bit for the pettiness, but honestly, this is mostly on Emma. Living together means having each other's backs, not shaming each other over natural bodily functions. Before we move on, let me know what you thought about this situation in the comments section below. But we must jump into the next post before it gets too dark outside. I, a 28-year-old female, recently married my husband Adam, a 30-year-old male. We share the same ethnicity and both speak our native language. However, I am more fluent since I visit our home country more often as my extended family is there, while it was just my parents, my sisters, and me here. Adam's grandparents were the first in his family to come to our current country, so he has most of his family here, and we see them more often. As a result, I am close with his family. My parents are divorced, and around the time I started dating Adam, my dad moved back to our home country. I regularly call him, but since he moved, he has come to see me twice and was also at my wedding. My dad disapproves of Adam, and I have had fights with Adam in the past about how I feel I have made more of an effort with his family, and he hasn't reciprocated for me. Both my parents speak our native language, and when we started dating, Adam wasn't conversationally fluent, creating a barrier to them initially bonding. This was more apparent when my dad came to stay with us, but in the lead up to the wedding, my dad stayed with us, and it went fine. I have been planning a trip to my home country to surprise my dad and asked Adam to come as well. He agreed, but then balked when I said we were going to stay with my dad and made what I thought was a joke about having to drink before meeting him. I didn't find it funny, and Adam later apologised. However, yesterday was our flight, and I was coming to the airport after work, so Adam went early with our suitcases to check in, and we were meant to meet up later. He was drunk, and the flight attendant wouldn't let him on the plane. I called my brother-in-law, who could take care of Adam, and left my brother-in-law's phone number with the attendant taking care of Adam, and I stayed on my flight. My home country is far, so tickets are expensive, and I took leave off from work for the trip, so I don't get off with Adam. Adam is now upset with me, saying I left him in a situation where he was drunk, and if roles were reversed, he would have never left me alone when I was drunk. But I don't think that is fair. Look, I get it. Relationships are hard, and blending families even harder. But here's the thing. Showing up drunk to an international flight, that's not just a red flag, it's a parade of them. Adam's behaviour was irresponsible and frankly disrespectful, not just to you, but to the effort you're putting into this trip and to your dad. It's clear you've been bending over backwards trying to make this relationship between your families work, and Adam's not meeting you halfway. His excuse of you leaving him doesn't hold water. You were put in a tough spot because of his actions. It's time for a serious chat about respect, responsibility, and how you both handle stress, because this isn't it. Let me know if I missed anything important in the comments section below, but we must jump into the next post before it gets too dark outside. Two of my friends, Kate and Max, not their real names, are getting married to each other, and I received an invitation that included loose guidelines for attire. It wasn't quite a strict dress code, but there were guidelines for men to wear a formal suit and tie with the "please reach out with any questions" addendum. Because I tend to wear a nice 8-yard kilt with a Prince Charlie or Braemar jacket and waistcoat when I am wearing formal attire, I reached out to Kate to ask if it would be appropriate. I told my girlfriend Sarah, also a fake name, that I hoped I could wear my kilt. Before I received a reply, Sarah told me that I absolutely cannot wear my kilt because it wouldn't be appropriate for formal attire, mind you. She has seen me in my kilt and Prince Charlie for other formal events, but she said that she would leave it if the bride said it was okay. So all was good for a few days until Kate responded that it was great because Max would also be wearing a kilt, as would a handful of other people at the wedding. Initially, Sarah insisted that I still shouldn't wear a kilt because I would stand out too much since I won't be in the wedding party, until I pointed out that Kate explicitly said that she already knew some guests would be wearing kilts. But yesterday Max texted me because Sarah had asked him to tell me not to wear my kilt, and he was weirded out because he knew that I would ask to wear my kilt and thought it was strange for her to ask him about it. I was kind of hurt, and when I asked why she asked Max to tell me not to wear a kilt, she said that she thought it was the only way to get me not to embarrass her. I kind of get the embarrassment angle. I do sometimes get stares when I'm wearing a kilt in public, and I know that she is introverted. She also comes from a pretty conservative background, and when we first met, she hadn't really encountered kilts before, and she has had some misgivings about me wearing them in the past. I admit I got kind of mad and told her that I didn't have to bring her as my +1, because I was the one who was invited. We got into an argument and she left pretty mad last night, and while I feel justified in my decision, I also don't know if I am in the wrong. Look, wearing a kilt to a wedding where the groom and other guests are doing the same is not about standing out or embarrassing anyone. It's about respecting the couple's culture and choices. Sarah going behind your back to try and change your attire is a red flag. It's controlling and undermines your autonomy. Her insecurities shouldn't dictate your actions, especially when the bride and groom have given their blessing. Your reaction, though heated, is understandable. Relationships are about compromise, yes, but not about one person steamrolling the other's choices. Sarah needs to reflect on why she felt the need to go to such lengths over a piece of clothing. It's a kilt, not a clown suit. Now, let's get into our next post. My nephew is 3 years old, and we only found out about him a few months ago. Obviously, the last few months have been rough on all of us, but especially on my brother, who I think was in shock and denial for the longest time. One of the big reasons his ex didn't tell my brother about their son was because she didn't want him to grow up spoiled and entitled, like most of my family. My parents also really hated her and did a lot to try and get my brother to dump her. For example, my dad had her fired from her graduate job, and I think he was the reason she couldn't get another one in that field for the longest time, so she was scared of how they'd react if they knew. My nephew turned 3 right around the time we found out, so we weren't able to celebrate, and his ex would only accept one small gift from my brother for him. So my family is belatedly celebrating his birthday, and they're going all out. My brother has bought more toys than one kid needs and is talking about taking him to Disney, even though there's no way his ex would let him take my nephew abroad. Anyway, we were talking about the party yesterday, and I told my brother we should tone it down, and he shouldn't give his son that many gifts in one go because it'll upset his ex, and most likely overwhelm my nephew, whose life has already been flipped upside down. I think for my nephew's sake, it would be best if we work with his ex, because we're all going to be connected forever now, so there's no point in fighting or holding on to grudges. My brother disagreed and said he wouldn't let his ex dictate his relationship with his son. I was going to explain why fighting with her wouldn't be good for my nephew, but our cousins were all siding with him and criticizing me for defending her. They think I'm only siding with her because she was one of my best friends, and I'm trying to be friends with her again. I do want her as a friend, but that's beside the point. I was irritated because they were ganging up on me, and in the heat of the moment I said, "This is exactly why she never told you about him," to my brother. He didn't say anything, but my cousins criticized me harshly. My brother has barely spoken to me since, and for some reason our family is now convinced I knew about my nephew all along when I absolutely didn't. My brother is also being very unpleasant to his ex now when he wasn't before, and I think it's because he's taking his anger out on her. Am I the jerk? Look, the heart of this issue isn't about who's siding with whom or who's throwing the bigger birthday bash. It's about a little boy who's suddenly been thrust into a whirlwind of family drama he can't possibly understand. Your intentions might be in the right place, wanting to ease him into this new world gently. But the way you delivered your message, let's just say, it could have used some finesse. Telling your brother this is exactly why she never told you about him in the heat of an argument was a low blow, and frankly it's no surprise it backfired. Yes, your family's history of entitlement and manipulation is troubling, and your brother's ex had her reasons for keeping her distance, but using those reasons as ammunition, not the way to build bridges. Your brother's reaction, while hurtful, is understandable. He's navigating a minefield of emotions, and your comment likely felt like a betrayal. Moving forward, it's crucial to remember that this isn't about winning an argument or proving a point. It's about what's best for a little boy caught in the crossfire. So take a step back, apologize for how things were said, and focus on constructive ways to support your nephew. That's what really matters. Don't forget to leave a like if you're enjoying the video, so YouTube knows to show you more content like this. And now, before I talk your ear off even more, let's move on to the next post. When I, a 16-year-old male, was a baby, my dad bought me a Simba stuffed animal. My dad was really into The Lion King, a movie he introduced to me very early, and one we both loved. I used to dress as Simba for Halloween and had Simba cakes for years. Simba was my favourite toy and always made me think of my dad. He died when I was 8. My mum remarried less than a year later to Nick. Nick had a baby daughter when he and my mum got married. She doesn't see her mum, so we have lived together 100% of the time since Mum and Nick got married. She is obsessed with me. I have mixed feelings. She can be cute or sweet, but sometimes it gets on my nerves when we're called siblings and she will call Nick our dad. Correcting her usually comes with being scolded by my mum and Nick because they said she loves me and wants to connect us more, which I should appreciate. She also gets upset when I go to see my grandparents or my aunt or uncle, and she's left behind. My grandparents and my aunt and uncle are my paternal family, so my stepsister isn't related to them and I don't want to bring her along because I barely get to see my family anyway. My mum has encouraged me before to bring her along and show she's my real sister, but I don't think of her that way and never have, even though I know she thinks of me as just her brother. I say all of this because maybe it will be relevant here. I no longer sleep with my Simba stuffed animal, but I keep him on a shelf across from my bed so I can see him when I'm in bed, and so he's close by. I also got a clear box for him so I can still see him, but he's clean. My stepsister has wanted him for months now. Mum and Nick have both taken Simba down from the shelf and out of the box to give to her, and I had to take him back. I asked Mum and Nick to respect my no. They say I should share and my stepsister would sleep with him instead of leaving him on a shelf. They don't care about it being something I treasure from my dad, so one day my stepsister was really annoying me about it, and she kept begging me to let her have Simba, and she'll take good care of him, and I can see him whenever I want. I told her no, I do not want her to have him. He is special to me because my dad bought him, and my dad is gone. She said if our dad bought him, then we should share. I said Nick is not my dad. My dad died, and he bought me Simba, and I want to keep him just for me. She got upset and asked if I didn't want her to ever have him, and I said yes, I don't want her to ever have Simba. She was devastated, and my mum and Nick were furious, and it got worse when she said I'd be mad if she ever had Simba again. I had to hide Simba away from everyone because of this, which has made me very resentful of all three, even though my stepsister is young and not really to blame. But I hate not seeing him every day. My mum and Nick think I was wrong to directly address my stepsister on this. Am I the jerk? Look, your feelings are valid. Your Simba stuffy isn't just a toy. It's a tangible connection to your dad, who you lost too soon. It's not about not sharing. It's about preserving a piece of your dad. Your mum and Nick need to understand this isn't about a stuffed animal. It's about respecting your grief and memories. Your stepsister, while young and naturally wanting to bond, needs to learn boundaries and respect for others' feelings and possessions. It's concerning that your mum and Nick are pushing you to give up something so emotionally significant to appease a child's whim. They should be fostering understanding and respect among you all, not guilt-tripping you into giving away your cherished keepsake. Your stepsister's desire to connect is understandable, but not at the expense of your feelings and memories of your dad. Let me know if you think I missed anything by leaving a comment. All right, guys, now we must move on to the next post, or else I'm going to lose my voice. My wife has always had a housekeeper from a young age. When we first discussed moving in together before marriage, the division of chores was a hot topic. I was on the team, we can do it ourselves, and she wanted to keep using the housekeeping service she had. Ultimately, I agreed to the housekeeping service after both our parents told me it'd be easier to agree to make her happy. My only condition was that it was a service she was responsible for paying for. She started out having them come every other week, then it became once a week, and eventually every other day to keep the house as clean as she liked it, and to do things like her laundry and emptying the trash in her hobby room. Mid-January, my wife was let go when her company downsized. She's been having a hard time finding a job in her field. For now, she's working part-time in retail. We weren't making amazing money before she was let go, but we live comfortably due in part to living below our means for the most part. Since her current job doesn't pay much, I said that I would cover all of our joint expenses, that is, mortgage, property tax, utilities, and our phones, so she doesn't have to deplete her savings, and our savings won't suffer as much either. She paid for the cleaning service in February, but then yesterday asked me if I was going to set up a direct pay with the cleaning company or transfer her the money to keep paying them. It's $190 a week. I told her neither. The housekeeping service was something she wanted and was responsible for. If she can't afford it anymore without dropping her savings below a point she's comfortable with, then we don't need it. And I'm not going to pay for something two able-bodied adults are perfectly capable of doing ourselves. We argued. She says, I know how much she hates cleaning and that it stresses her out, and since the housekeeper cleaned up areas like the kitchen and living room and made the bed sometimes, I was benefiting from it, so it counts as a joint expense. I've told her it doesn't, because I'm perfectly happy to clean up after myself and have cleaned rooms before when they needed it between visits. Fast forward to today, and she thinks I'm still being a jerk by not paying for it. Am I being unreasonable here? To add, I've been doing housework even with the housekeeper. I do my own laundry, I make our bed most days, I clean up after our pets, clean the kitchen after we cook, and that includes the oven/stove/microwave. I take out the trash and recycling, clean the air conditioning filters. I dust between visits, I'll sweep and clean the bathrooms between visits, clean up the shower and sinks after each use. I pick up after myself. Most of what the housekeeper does is already done by the time she shows up. If my wife is home, then it's her mess that gets cleaned up, or her clothes, plates, items that she leaves around. The housekeeper also cleans her hobby room, does her laundry, and whatever else my wife asks. She's just used to having a daily cleaner due to her childhood. Look, I get it. Change is hard, especially when it's thrust upon us unexpectedly. But here's the thing. Life is full of unexpected turns, and how we adapt says a lot about us. Your wife, bless her, seems to have been caught in a whirlwind of change and is clinging to what feels normal, the housekeeping service. But let's be real here. You're not the bad guy for drawing a line. Money doesn't grow on trees, and with her job situation, priorities need to shift. It's not about the cleaning, it's about adapting to new circumstances. You're already picking up a lot of slack, financially and chore-wise. It's time for a reality check, not a cleaning service. This isn't about not supporting your wife, it's about being practical in a pinch. She might not see it now, but this is a team effort, and sometimes that means getting your hands dirty, literally. But we must jump into the next post before it gets too dark outside.